online, TV and digital radio. This is BBC Radio Wales.
A plan to detect and prevent rare diseases is being launched today by the Welsh Government. The hope is to ensure patients and their families get the most benefits from the health service if they're diagnosed with a rare disease. Well, let's speak to Len Woodward, who's originally from Morriston in Swansea and is a founding trustee of the patient support group aHUS UK, a rare disease that affects people's immune system. Good morning to you, Len.
Good morning.
Good morning. Did I pronounce that correctly?
aHUS, yes.
I did. OK. Can you tell us what it is for a start?
Well, I think most people will know about aHUS because in its typical form, it's what happens to people after an E. coli poisoning and they end up either dead or with kidney failure. In the atypical form, there are other triggers and people are sort of genetically predisposed to it, and it's very, very, very rare. So
what constitutes a rare disease? Because this plan to detect and prevent rare diseases being launched today is not just this disease, it's any rare disease. What makes a disease rare?
Well, it's when there's possibly one patient in 2,000 of the population. So in case of aHUS, it's about 1 in 250,000. But there's a lot of rare diseases. There's about 5,000 rare diseases, and there's probably about 3 million people in the UK who've got a rare disease.
It must be very difficult if you suffer from one of these, because there are, I imagine, support groups are quite rare. There aren't many other people you can talk to who share your symptoms and your difficulties. And also, I presume drug companies are rather reluctant to spend a lot of money on something that is not going to have a big return.
That's right. I mean, by the very nature it's rare, you can be isolated. You may not know another patient anywhere, certainly not in your own hospital, but it's important to get social support. And there are patient organisations who can help with that.
So how is this new plan going to work, and how's it going to be delivered?
Well, it's the first time that they've set out a list of actions for dealing with the disease, from the point of view of diagnosis, because it's very difficult to get a diagnosis for a rare disease, from the point of view of getting the treatment and getting research to provide the treatment and to understand the cause of the rare disease. So it's the first time that's been set out by all the 4 home nations' national health services.
Right, so how will it actually, in practical terms, work then? Will there be a unit set up in every hospital, or will there be one central unit where anybody suspected of having something out of the ordinary will be sent to be diagnosed?
It'll be a mixture, really. I mean, there will be national centres of excellence. For aHUS, there's currently a centre of excellence in Newcastle where there's experts who know all about this very rare disease. There's only 200 in the whole of the UK with it, so not every hospital is going to understand it or know how to treat it or how to give information to their patients.
I mean, it's good news for people like yourself. I mean, 4 members of your family have died from aHUS, haven't they?
Well, in the past, yes, and sometimes before the disease was even identified. And not only that, members of my family are on dialysis, because that's one of the results of aHUS. You lose your kidney function.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's very good news, particularly if they can find a treatment.
Okay.
That there's research into it and a treatment can be found.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference.
Thank you very much for joining us today, Len. That's Len Woodward from the patient support group aHUS UK.
7:53, good morning to you. Now, the family of a Chelmsford 3-year-old who suffers from a rare blood disorder are calling for more awareness of uncommon conditions. Indy Smith fell ill just before her first birthday. Her condition affects only around 150 people in the UK. She's currently reacting well on a drug she's receiving as part of a 2-year trial, which is not available on the NHS. Her mother, Clare Smith, is with me to talk about Rare Disease Day. Clare, thank you for coming in early this morning. Good morning.
Hiya.
You're also on the front page of a media supplement, aren't you, in The Independent?
Yeah, Rare Disease Day is, yeah.
Yeah. Or the Rare Disease Day is, yes, you're absolutely right. Tell us about rare diseases and how we should be more aware of them and what we should do.
Well, obviously they're very rare and patients don't have a lot of support. They feel isolated and alone. So today's all about raising awareness for those diseases and to urge patients to join together for better care.
What is the actual disease that Indy has?
She has atypical hemolytic syndrome, aHUS for short. It's a rare blood disease. it causes small blood clots to form in the blood vessels, and in Indy's case, it caused her to go into kidney failure. Like you said, she's got a good medication at the moment, so it's all kept under control. But
she happy?
Yeah, she's
That's
brilliant.
good.
Yeah, she's happy 3-year-old.
Good. Now, because it only affects 150 people, obviously, research drugs very expensive. It takes a lot to actually do it, to get companies interested in actually producing drugs for a condition that doesn't have an enormous amount of take-up on what they're selling. So how do you get people to do it? How do you get drugs developed for a disease that is very rare? You have to, presumably, raise money.
Well, we have been raising money, yeah, but we shouldn't have to do that.
No, you shouldn't.
Yeah, that's the only way we've gone forward. We've been lucky enough to have the drug on a trial basis, and hopefully, eventually, it will become available on the NHS. But if it doesn't, yeah, we're going to have to keep fundraising and raise the $250,000 a year that it costs.
And the NHS have said to you that there's no, we can't fund it.
They're looking into it at the moment. It's been investigated and, you know, looked at to see if it's worth money.
How did you get Indy on this particular trial?
Pure luck. She got ill at the time she did. We were rushed to Great Ormond Street, and they just happened to have the trial going, and I think it was only going for another couple of weeks, and then it would have ended and we wouldn't have got on it.
Were you worried about her going on a trial?
Yeah, really, really worried. I just thought of guinea pigs and, you know, but it's the best thing we've done. If we didn't go on that trial, she'd be on dialysis now, so... What's
the prognosis for her?
With the medication, she should lead a normal, healthy life, but 50% of patients that are diagnosed with aHUS will require dialysis or have permanent kidney damage or die within a year of diagnosis, so... You know, we were really lucky to get on the trial. All right, this is Rare Disease Day. It is, yeah.
You can find out more by going...
Yep.
Where?
You can go to the eurodis.org webpage, or you can go to the Facebook page, which is Rare Disease Day. Get more information from there. Don't feel isolated and alone is the message. There's people out there, they might not have the same rare disease as you, obviously, but, you know...
If they have a disease that is very uncommon, they can speak to people like you, they can talk to people who've been through it, they can find out what they do next, because it's like suddenly being on your own, and...
Yeah, that's it. Because it's such a rare disease, there's not often support groups for that particular thing. We're really lucky to have aHUS UK, our support group, but many people don't have anybody, so... You know, there's people there to talk to, and we can all join together and fight for better care.
And you've got the Independent today. You can see it's on the front page of the media supplement, and it'll tell you more in there as well. Yeah. Claire, listen, give our love to Indy. Thank you very much indeed for coming in and talking to us as well.
Thank you.
This is Eddie Nestor's Drive Time, weekdays from 5
on BBC London 94.9.
Now, we always like happy stories here on Drive Time, but it is Rare Disease Day, a day which aims to bring these stories of those desperate and often isolated people living with little-known and often fatal diseases. Now, one of those people is 9-year-old Maya. Maya is from Northolt, and she recently received, get this, a kidney transplant from her father, Marek, after being diagnosed with a rare blood disease called aHUS. Now, Maya, by the way, and her dad are recovering well, we are told, but we can get more on that from Mum Sylwia. Good evening to you, Mum.
Good evening, good evening.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh, so daughter's got a rare illness, and Dad steps in to give kidney, so there's got to be a time when they're both going through treatment that your heart just must be beating out of your chest.
Yes, it does.
How difficult was it?
I mean, I would have to really go back in time to start and tell you how it all... I mean, when it all started, when she was 4 years old. It is a horrendous disease. She started basically with high temperature. She was a bit yellow on her face. She was vomiting. And we've ended up, I mean, as a parent, you know, straight away that something is terribly wrong. We've ended up in a hospital, in a local hospital, and she was diagnosed back then with hemolytic uremic syndrome, which is associated really with bacteria like E. coli 0157. Then she was transferred to Great Ormond Hospital, and it was confirmed that she has the atypical version of aHUS, which is hereditary condition. And the diseases in itself, it's very complicated, but just to explain it in simple words, it causes small blood clots to form in blood vessels and throughout the body, and they lead to strokes, neurological complications, and most often to kidney failure. So then the disease is really horrendous, and it causes really poor life prognosis.
And when did the idea of Dad donating a kidney come up?
About 2 or 3 years ago, Maya basically, despite at the time when it happened, Maya had multiple plasma exchanges. There was only supportive treatment, and Maya ended up with kidney failure very quickly, within 2 or 3 months of developing the disease. It's basically known that there's 90% chance of the disease coming back, so no one would attempt to actually undertake the transplant. We had to wait for almost 5 years actually to have the transplant available. And it was done last year. Maya and father have incompatible bloods, so our fantastic Great Ormond Hospital had to come up with another new treatment of washing up the blood to have this transplant possible. So the whole surgery took place in October last year.
And both are doing well?
They're both doing very well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What a great story. Oh, and thank you for telling us about it. We do like a happy story. And the reason we're covering the story, as well as it being fantastic, it is Rare Disease Day, a day which aims to bring the stories of those disparate, often isolated people living with little known and often fatal disease. It might be something you would like to look up.
On FM, online, on your mobile and on digital radio, this is Heart. 7 o'clock then, and here's the latest.
I'm Chaz Rowe, a teacher from Corsham who's been telling Heart it's been a struggle at times to live with a condition that roughly 140 people in the UK suffer from.
I know many people that suffer from rare diseases do feel isolated and alone if they've never met anyone with a similar condition.
Matthew Slee's rare blood disorder affects his kidneys, meaning just 23% of them function. He's now trying to raise awareness of rare diseases and how things like Facebook support groups can really help.
And it's all about putting people in touch with other people who understand. That's the simple message, really.
A passion for Wiltshire life.
BBC Wiltshire.
It's 8 o'clock here with the news this morning. It's Melanie Stewart-Smith.
A schoolteacher from Corsham with a rare condition says better-known diseases can overshadow other medical causes. Matt Slee has an ultra-rare blood disease and is supporting Rare Disease Day, which aims to unite the UK's 3 million sufferers. Matt says access to care is often limited.
Had I not been so lucky and not lived near a regional centre of excellence like Southmead is for renal care, then the chances of a doctor knowing the specifics of my condition would be fairly slim.
BBC Wiltshire Breakfast with Ben Prater.
But first, our top story. Imagine being diagnosed with a potentially fatal disease that you've never heard of. Well, it's estimated there are 3 million people in the UK suffering from little-known illnesses. One of those is Matt Slee from Corsham, who has the ultra-rare blood condition, atypical hemolytic uremic syndrome, or aHUS. He's told us that rare diseases can be marginalised by other conditions which get more exposure. As one of only 150 people with his condition in the UK, he's now joining with other sufferers to support Rare Disease Day. BBC Wiltshire's Victoria Mitzi spoke to the teacher at his school in the classrooms at Monkton Park Primary in Chippenham.
Back in May of last year, I was taken ill and I was told that I had a rare kidney disease that was triggered. That basically means the blood vessels in my kidneys were being blocked, meaning that my kidneys couldn't filter my blood in the way they should be doing. I didn't know who to turn to, where to look, really. Friends and family were desperately looking in the internet for advice and for information on this rare disease. Thankfully, I found a support group in the UK for aHUS, which is my disease, and it was comforting to know that I wasn't alone. It was comforting to know that there were other people out there with a similar illness.
And how important is it that people are getting together in this way?
I think there's only about 150 people in the country that have my illness, so there's not many of us. Having a wider group, as Rare Disease Day has done, allows us to put patients and families in touch with others who understand, really. I think that's the key message, people that understand.
That's Matt Slee, who's got a rare blood disease. Joining us now, Trevor Murby, who's the national spokesperson for aHUS UK. Trevor, good morning.
Good morning.
How tough is it for people like Matt?
Oh, it's very difficult indeed. indeed. But there's one good thing that's coming out of today, which is the Rare Disease Day, which I believe is on Facebook as an introduction to these rare diseases. But especially with regards to aHUS, there's a fantastic network of people with aHUS UK, which is on the internet, and people can access the site and get sort of assistance. And with regards to this, I think it would be an advantage for all different groups to have this kind of facility.
And are you one of the other 149 people with the condition or not?
No, I'm not. It's my grandson that has had this condition. He had it 12 months ago, and we thought we were going to lose him. The whole of the family was horrified, devastated, and the thought of losing your grandson, and even more so for my son and his wife, it's the fear of not understanding, A, the medical diagnosis, and then the isolation of difficulty of finding a support group, of which aHUS UK was at the top. It was wonderful to find those, and it's assisted us greatly, and we are members of that group.
It sounds dreadful, and to a certain extent we all, as soon as we know even some piddling thing is wrong with us, get on the internet these days and tap away, and people say not to do that, GPs say not to do that, but it sounds like sometimes they have to know about these conditions.
Absolutely, because in a lot of cases I don't think that doctors and nurses are aware of this particular disease, albeit our grandson was taken to the Queen's Medical Centre in Nottingham, of which I must thank the consultants, doctors and nurses for their dedication and professionalism, because they gave a quick diagnosis of the problem.
And do you campaign for greater coverage of this? Because to a certain extent, it is what it is. People are trying hard, I bet, to garner more information. They're not just being blasé or naive or not bothering to research these diseases.
Yes, I think, especially as far as aHUS is concerned, the group that are involved in this are campaigning all the time to make it available to everybody, to let them know that this is available to them, and they work very hard to do that.
Good to speak to you. Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you very much indeed.
And your grandson now, how's he doing?
He's improving at the moment, so we feel quite good about that.
Good to know. Trevor Murby from aHUS UK.
On FM, online, on your mobile and on digital radio, this is Heart. 8 o'clock, here's the latest.
I'm Chaz Rowe. A teacher from Corsham has been telling Heart having a rare condition that about 140 people in the UK suffer from has been a struggle at times.
I know many people that suffer from rare diseases do feel isolated and alone if they've never met anyone with a similar condition.
Matthew Slee's rare blood disorder affects his kidneys, meaning just 23% of them function. He's now trying to raise awareness of rare diseases and how things like Facebook support groups can really help.
And it's all about putting people in touch with other people who understand. That's the simple message, really.
On FM, online, on your mobile and on digital radio, this is Heart. And here's the latest.
I'm Chaz Rowe. A Wiltshire teacher has been telling Heart he didn't know where to turn after being told he had a rare blood disorder which seriously affects his kidneys.
I was really grateful to learn that there was a support group so I could sort of learn from their stories, get advice on treatment and how to cope with the disease, really.
Matthew Slee from Corsham is now trying to raise awareness of rare diseases like his, which only 140 people in the UK are thought to suffer from.
I know many people that suffer from rare diseases do feel isolated and alone if they've never met anyone with a similar condition.
Online, on digital radio and across the Northwest on 105.4 FM, this is Real Radio.
A St Helens mum whose daughter was diagnosed with a very rare blood disorder when she was just 1 says families in their position need more help. Toni Leyland is supporting Rare Disease Day, which is calling for sufferers to buddy up with people in similar positions. Toni says they felt totally isolated until they found a support group 6 months after Scarlett was diagnosed with aHUS.
Like when things was going wrong with Scarlett and she was coming out with weird rashes, it wasn't doctors I was turning to, it's aHUS UK, because they knew the doctors didn't. It was just, well, we'll have to do some research about it.
Online, on digital radio and across the Northwest on 105.4 FM, this is Real Radio.
St Helens mum says more support should be offered to families dealing with uncommon medical conditions. Toni Leyland is supporting this year's Rare Diseases Day. It's after she felt isolated when her 1-year-old daughter Scarlett was diagnosed with an ultra-rare blood disorder.
You trust your doctor, and all we got off the doctors is, we don't know what to do. Basically, we don't know anything about it. It's so rare, we don't know. They couldn't tell us any of the questions like, what do you treat her with? Is she going to get better? Is she going to live?
Morning on FM, online, on your mobile and digital radio. This is Heart. 7 o'clock. Here's the latest.
Good morning, I'm Carrie-Anne Jones. Only 140 people in the UK have the same rare condition that Elena Lilly from Barnstable has. She was diagnosed with a blood disease when she was 19. Today, she's heading to London to campaign for better care for people with rare diseases so they can cope better with their daily struggles.
At times they felt isolated and quite confused and alone and not really knowing where to turn to talk to other people with the same condition or in a similar rare disease situation. It can be an amazing thing.
On FM, online, on your mobile and digital radio, this is Heart. 8:01 is the latest.
Good morning, I'm Carrie-Anne Jones. More help is needed for sufferers of rare diseases to cope with their daily struggles. Elena Lilly from Barnstable was diagnosed with an ultra-rare blood disease when she was 19. Only 140 people in the UK have the same condition. She's meeting people in London to campaign for better medical care.
Patients feel frustrated that there might be little emphasis on research in their particular condition, or they might find it hard that there are no treatments for their condition. So Rare Disease Day is really important in bringing people together.